Morning, everyone. So, here we go. Another topic of discussion. We're going to go a little bit in depth, not too far. If you want to know more, let me know and we'll continue on. But here we go. On-road versus off-road. Which is better for you and which is just better in general? Let's find out. Now, in general, this is one of those topics that a lot of people argue over, just like the nitro versus electric. A lot of people fight and will scream at each other until they're blue in the face about this. But this is a topic that some people do have to confront themselves when deciding which kind of car they want to get when getting into this hobby. I mean, aside from the brand war that's going on, and maybe I'll do a video about that, about the brands and how some people argue and fight over which brand is better. That's a whole nother debacle and bunch of shenanigans. But so on-road versus off-road, very simple. Exactly what it sounds like. Off-road, basically your monster trucks, stadium trucks, buggies, trophy trucks, like that one right there. Now, essentially, the biggest thing with the ground, is the ground clearance for off-roaders, so you can really do off-roady style things. Dirt, grass, gravel, rocks. Then you got crawlers and trail trucks that are really made to go off-road. But yeah, off-roaders, there are a lot of different types. Again, you've got your stadium trucks, which are generally two-wheel drive, made for, off-road racing in more of the light off-road side of things, like sand, dirt, gravel, clay, your basic kind of off-roading that's not super heavy or involved. Some jumps maybe. And you've got the monster trucks. Generally, they can be 2 or 4-wheel drive. As you can see, like Clodbuster, Ruckus, those are both 2-wheel drives. Clodbuster, 4-wheel drive. T-Max, Terramoto 10-2, all 4-wheel drive. Nitro Stampede, 2-wheel drive. Even these ones down here. Custom Franken-Clod, 4-wheel drive. Big Bear, 2 sledgehammers, those are all 2-wheel drives. A lot of different models to choose from, but they all have the same, they're all kind of the same build philosophy, whether it's 2 or 4-wheel drive. High ground clearance, big beefy tires, especially like this T-Max and the Clodbusters, these ginormous chevron pattern monster truck tires, basically go anywhere and everywhere. Lots of ground clearance, good for jumping, good for, a lot of slightly larger obstacles while off-roading. Rocks, again, gravel, dirt, all the same shit that stadium trucks can handle, plus. And the ones that are 4-wheel drive have the added benefit of being 4-wheel drive. Now, then you got other ones like the buggies. You got 2 and 4-wheel drive buggies. Those are a little bit harder to really classify as off-road because they usually don't have anywhere near as much ground clearance as stadium trucks. They're usually a bit lower, have smaller tires. So those, even though they are technically off-road capable, I would consider those more like intermediate, kind of in between. Because again, they can go off-road, but they're more for dirt, sand, clay, even gravel sometimes trips them up, but they can still go off-road. And then, of course, there are crawlers and trail trucks, which are really, depending on the setup, depending on which modifications you've done, crawlers and trail trucks. This is my Tamiya Bruiser clone, the HGP 407, and my Vetera Ascender. Both are 4-wheel drive. However, the Ascender has locked diffs, whereas the Bruiser clone is unlocked. So the Bruiser clone is better for as a trail truck, so it doesn't really like rock crawl, whereas the Ascender will crawl up rocks and go just about anywhere I tell it to. But still, both are very capable trail and rock crawlers, depending on the modifications you use. And there are other brands. You got the Axial SCX 10s. I think they're up to the 10.3 now. Element Gatekeeper, Traxxas TRX4. There are tons of different ones you can choose from. Now, you can in fact turn a off-roader into an on-road vehicle. Traxxas has done this with their Rally chassis, which is essentially just a four-wheel drive Traxxas Slash with a low center of gravity chassis that sits it low to the ground, but it still allows it to have big bore shocks and be very off-road capable. However, you can put street car tires on it and turn it into a rally cross car that's still able to handle like dirt and sand, but also perform very well on asphalt and concrete. Now, it's very easy to turn one of these off-roaders into a street car or a street vehicle. Like, we come back over here, and we'll just use the crawlers for examples. Say you want to take a crawler and turn it into a tow truck or like a show truck or a street truck. It'd be very easy to give it that stock truck look with some smaller tires, some shorter shocks. You bring the center of gravity down, you bring the ride height down quite a bit, and it would essentially just be like a stock truck you'd see on the road, not a heavy duty, tall, grippy, big tired machine. With something like a monster truck, it'd be a little bit harder to do that. Take my Tamiya Grasshopper, I turned it into a Death Race inspired Camaro. Now, it still has the Grasshopper tires, but the original Grasshopper wheels and tires, they're kind of street tires. Kind of. I only say that because they're kind of knobby and it's okay off-road. It can handle dirt and sand and gravel, but high grass, or even grass in general, because of the modifications that I made, this gets caught on shit all the time, and it's just better for on-road or minor off-road use. But essentially took a two-wheel drive sand buggy and turned it into a street car. So it's pretty easy to do that with off-roaders. On the flip side of that, you have on-road chassis like these ones, like the Traxxas Nitro Fortec or the electric Fortex. Tamiya TT01, TT02, another TT02, HPI Sprint 2 Flux. Now, all of these are brushless. That's obviously Nitro. It's a Nitro Fortec. To turn any one of these into an off-road ready car, it's not going to go as far as, say, getting like this Ruckus. You're not going to get the suspension travel. You're not going to get the ride height. You're not going to get the ground clearance, because no matter what, it's still a street car. You have the very short control arms to contend with. Really, the only thing you can do is put a rally car styled body on it, or a pickup truck body. Like, say you wanted to make an S10 or something similar to like my GMC Cyclone and Typhoon here. You could raise the body on the posts, put some slightly chunkier tires to increase that ride height a bit, so that way you have a little bit more ground clearance, and then it would be capable for a little bit more off-road than just, switching to some slightly off-road tires. Because as you can see, like on my Typhoon here, I've got just your basic street tires on here. Same thing with the Nitro Fortec, just your basic street tire. The Cyclone, just a basic street drift tire. Same thing with these tires. They're all just kind of your basic drift tires for on the street, or street use tires. You can put slightly chunkier, knobby tires on these, and they'll be decent for on dirt, but that's about all they can really do. They're very limited, taking a street car off-road. I know there are a lot of guys who build rally cars out of a lot of these chassis, and there are some actual street car chassis that are designed to be rally cars. There's a couple of them, I believe, XV01, XV02. I don't know who makes them, but I've seen seen those names pop up in some of the Facebook groups when people talk about building rally cars. Because a lot of people will reach for a TT01 or a TT02 because they're cheap and readily available, and they can work, but they're not exactly really the best choice to make a rally car from. You can make them work, and if that's what you got, you can work with what you got. You can make do. But there are some rally chassis out there that are legit streetcar chassis that are made for rally cars. So with that, you'd have to do a little bit of research on that. So overall, it depends on where you're going to be running them. Like my collection, I've got a little bit of everything because, one, I wanted a little bit of everything. I do like some of these chassis because I just had some builds that I wanted to make, like the M4S Turbo Interceptor from the Wraith. Classic 80s movie. Love the movie, love the car, built the car, and it's perfect. Razor's Mustang from Need for Speed Most Wanted. I mean, come on. Anybody who grew up playing Need for Speed knows this Mustang. The Cyclone and Typhoon. The fastest production street truck until like last year or some bullshit. Even though it was only produced for a few years, the Cyclone was still the fastest ever produced. And the Typhoon was just a Blazer version. It was an SUV. Same exact everything else, though. So, I mean, come on. Those are some cool-ass trucks. And, I mean, it's... Depending on what you want to do with it, there's something for you. It's just you have to know where you want to run. If you have a nice big long driveway that's really nicely asphalt or concreted, a street car would definitely suit you because you can drift. You can do all sorts of drift builds. You can do all sorts of drag car builds. Even like they have drag cars as well. The Traxxas drag car, it's a Slash chassis, but it's got some chunky, they're like a little bit wider than that rear tires on them, and like they've got the associated DR10, that's their drag car. I mean, again, they're off-road chassis that have been modified and sold from the factory. Out of the box. You can get them as a drag car, but essentially all it is a short course truck turned into a drag car. That's how versatile a lot of those chassis are. I mean, even with something like this, you could build drag cars with these. It can be done, and it'll have more of that actual street car aesthetic and look, and it won't look like a pro mod. It'll look like an actual street car. But if you have a long driveway or access to a huge parking lot, I would suggest a drift car or a drag car or any of the street cars. I mean, you have all the bigger Armas, the 7th scales, the infraction, the felony. You got stuff like the Traxxas X01 that are stupid fast. I mean, there's all sorts of street car chassis for you to choose from. As for if you've got more woods or, sand or dirt yard, gravel pit, if you've got more wooded areas or, obviously something that would be more off-road friendly, definitely get you an off-road truck that suits your needs. Whether it be a monster truck, a stadium truck, a trophy truck, or even a buggy if you've got a little bit of a mix of both where you can easily just switch some street tires on, put a car body on it, and call it a car. Or, if you want to run it on dirt, you can, throw your chunky dirt tires back on, throw the buggy body on it, and call it, what it is. So it really is up to what your preferences are and what you need, what you want to run it on. But there is something for everybody. And I still don't understand why it's contested and it gets in such heated arguments over this, because each one of these chassis, each one of these cars, they're not the same as the next. You're going to find the brand elitists that are going to say, well, Tamiya is the best. No, ECX is the best. Just kidding. Nobody says ECX is the best, but come on. So a lot of people will argue Traxxas is the best. A lot of people will say Red Cat is shit. I mean, there's all sorts of people out there who will tell you which one's the best. It doesn't matter which one's the best, because that's really all subjective. Each one of these chassis is priced reasonably. You can get into it pretty cheap, especially if you get used. But I mean, they're everywhere. Just find something that suits your needs, something that fits what you're trying to build. You want to build a streetcar replica? Go for it. You want to build a off-road monster? Go for it. It's all subjective based on what you want it to look like, and what your preferences are, and what your budget really is. Because a lot of these, like the T-Max, can be very budget friendly if you get it used. Brand new, these are still $400 to $500 trucks. The Clodbuster, if you can get an original one used, good luck, because they're about the same price as a brand new re-release kit. I mean, something like even the Traxxas Rustler. This is a Nitro Rustler. You can still get those. Those are still, $250, $300 trucks brand new for the electric or the Nitro. And even then, you can find them used for about $100, $150. So the money barrier to entry is not really there unless you're specifically looking to just buy brand new, which is kind of dumb. I would say only buy brand new if you really know what you want. Buy used if not. Because if you're just trying to get into it, buy something used so you don't end up feeling like you wasted money on something you don't like. Especially with all the haters out there and all the people that are going to pull you in which direction. Again, the biggest one right now is the Traxxas versus the Arrma guys. I don't have an Arrma in my collection, so I, can't really be like, but I've got a bunch of Traxxas. I've got a bunch of Tamiya. I've got ECX. I've got HPI. I've got Red Cat. I've got Losi, Viterra. I've got Kyoshos. I've got a little bit of everything else. I've got FTX. I've even got a Hosim. One of those little Amazon cheap brands. Find one that you like, that you would like to modify. Look at what kind of parts are available for it. Whether it's on-road or off-road, based on your preference. I've specified in this video, you can easily take most off-roaders and turn them into on-roaders. You can take on-road chassis and make them off-road capable, but it's a little bit harder. So, do with that information what you will. So, thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell to be notified about all my newest videos. If you have any questions about anything else you want to, get a little bit more into a topic, depending on, you're interested in stadium trucks, you want me to go into detail about that, let me know in the comments or message me directly on any of the social medias that will be linked in the description below. Stay tuned for more, and have a good day, everybody.